I want to talk about the most important college assignment that I ever had during my training to become a teacher at Northern Michigan University. My professor was Kia Richmond, and it was my second semester of methods classes, and the assignment was brilliantly simple. She asked each of us to prepare a grammar lesson to give to our college class. We were to talk for something like, or present for something like 5 to 10 minutes, and that was it. She made sure that we were all covering a different grammar subject just for the sake of us not all talking about the same thing, and we were supposed to prepare a short lesson and deliver that to the class. Simple as can be. I remember to this day, mine was appositive phrases. So I spent the week preparing a lesson on appositive phrases. I made sure that I understood them in and out. I made sure that I could answer any academic questions about the nature of appositive phrases or their application. I found examples. I put together class materials, scaffolding, all of the stuff that my methods education to that point had told me would be important for presenting a lesson. And we all showed up with our grammar lessons ready to go. We There were maybe 20 or so of us in the class, and we were instructed that when we were presenting, to play the role of the teacher as expected, and when we were listening, to play the role of whatever age or grade level of secondary students we would the person was expecting to teach. So if you were planning to teach 10th grade English, and that was what the lesson was appropriate for, the class of 20 college students was expected to behave as if it were a class of 10th grade students. This included my English professor, who was obviously the most experienced with teaching kids of all ages and was the best at performing as if she were a student of any of those ages. I believe I was the second or third person to go, and my experience was not particularly unique, but or not unique in regard to the class, but it was unique regarding pretty much all of my college course level experience to that point. I'd given presentations in classes before, but I was now presenting a lesson about grammar to a class of college students and one very savvy college professor who were going to behave as if they were high school students. And they did. And for all of my preparation, my academic knowledge, my in depth understanding of the nature of appositive phrases and how they function in English, I proceeded to give a terrible 5 to 10 minute lesson on the subject. Uh, Predictably so, I had peers who were doing their best teenager impressions, and we were not far divorced from being teenagers ourselves. We were in our third year of college. People were putting their heads down. People were pulling their phones out. People were expressing their discontent with the subject, asking why it mattered, asking if they could go to the bathroom, asking when this was going to be over, showing absolutely no regard to the importance of this subject that I had taken so seriously and that was important to me because I wanted to be an English teacher. Uh, and you could say that some of those students took liberty and hammed up their performances a bit, but it was best preparation for actual teaching. Um, because I gave horrible answers and horrible responses in terms of my quality and my preparedness to deal with that, which I'm pretty confident was the entire point of the lesson. The point of the lesson was not to make sure that we knew how to teach grammar or that we could give a presentation. If my presentation were something like this, where if I were just talking to a camera or creating a virtual asynchronous lesson, it would have been fine. But that's not what teaching is. That's not what real live teaching is. It's so much more. The actual grammar lesson in a high school English class is it's not even the frosting on the cake. It's the coating of the sprinkle on the frosting that's on the cake of what a high school teacher should be doing. A high school teacher should be building relationships with students, should be finding what those students' passions are and how you can use English as a conduit to reach those passions. Should be finding ways to prepare them for the real world, and not just in terms of preparation for jobs, but becoming politically literate, technologically literate, having the ability to have open and civil discourse, students knowing how to properly write in a positive phrase is very low on their priority list. And I cringe to think of the kind of responses that I gave to my peers and my professor when they prodded me in that hypothetical scenario. What Professor Richmond did for me was, and for all of us, was she created a safe environment for us to fall flat on our face, for us to get it wrong, for us to recognize that the academic piece is way down the list of priorities for all the things that you have to bring to your students and for the things that you should prioritize. And creating that kind of space for students to fail and fail forward and reflect and learn from that mistake. That's another really important thing that secondary teachers, and I would argue all teachers, should be doing for their students. And that's why it's so frustrating that so much of education from the Department of Education level, the federal level, and in many cases the school board level, or even building level administrations in so many places across this country, they're focused just on those X's and O's of instruction, the curriculum itself. They want to know that your lesson plan, your paperwork is in order, and we get away from the cake. We get away from what's really important. So in my reflection on my teaching career before it even started, I want to thank Professor Richmond for what she did for us and remind all of us to focus on what's important.